So Vernal, if you're going up Provo Canyon, eventually you go up through Heber, and if you just keep going straight through Heber, in another 3 hours, you're gonna hit Vernal. So you pass through a bunch of small towns. Like you pass through a town called Duchesne, you pass through a town, and then you pass through Roosevelt. More people know about Roosevelt. Vernal is its neighbor to the west, and it's just on the edge of Colorado. You can drive out, like it was, we could drive out to the place that said "Welcome to Colorado" and see that sign in our in our mission. And it's a rural town. Most of the people who work there are they work in the oil industry, so they're called roughnecks. That's what they call themselves. But a lot of the people, farmers, ranchers, and it's a growing town. So they are they're getting more things. Like in the very center of town, you have a Walmart, a Sonic, a Burger King, a Subway, and all these things. But then the farther out you go, the properties get bigger, and so you have less. People are living farther apart. So we had a car, and we were given like 2,000 miles a month, so we could get, so we were able to get everywhere we needed to go, because it was a lot. It was huge. Like our area that we covered when I was there in English was 50 miles long, which is huge for, and some other places might not be that big, but it was huge in the Provo mission, because, most of my areas were maybe like 4 blocks by 4 blocks. And so to cover this 50-mile area was huge, and so it's very different. A lot of your stuff will be done at night, because in the mornings and the afternoons they are, they're out in the fields working, and they come home. And then sometimes there are people that you don't see for 2-3 weeks, because they do shifts where they work for 2-3 weeks and they come home for 2-3 weeks, and they go work for 2-3 weeks and come home. So sometimes there's people you don't see for 2-3 weeks on end because they are out working. But in my area, just north, there was this little town called, I don't remember saying that. There's this little town. It was 50 miles away, and it was a super tiny ward. I think there must have been like 30 people in that ward. And the only reason it was a ward is because during the summer it was a big vacation spot that would boom up to a bunch of people. But we went up there once a month to visit this ward. And it was interesting. Now, it's really interesting because, in Vernal, more people are not members than there are members, because of just because of the distance from Salt Lake and the closeness to Colorado. And so, and you have to learn how to talk with y'all and be able to understand what they're saying, howdy, and they will, people wear their cowboy boots to church, and they have their special cowboy vests and, their cowboy suits, and they'll, they're really interesting to, go into church and see a priest wearing a white shirt, tie, and then he stands up and he's wearing jeans and walking down from the thing, and he's wearing his brown cowboy boots. And I was like, that would not fly back home in Oregon. We'd be in so much trouble if we did that. That was what they did. And they wore, they were cowboys through and through. They have the reserve, the Indian Reserve out there, so there's lots of Native Americans that you get to meet with. As a Spanish missionary in Vernal, we played this, we called it Minesweeper, the game on the computer where you have to poke all the different boxes and make sure you don't hit the bomb, because we would have to go up and try to talk to these people and hope that the person you're talking to spoke Spanish, because if you went up and started talking to a Native American in Spanish, and they'd be like, I don't speak Spanish, and they'd get super offended, like, I don't speak Spanish. And then if you talk to a Hispanic in English, they're like, no hablo inglés, and it's like, okay. So that's why we called it Minesweeper. It was fun. Vernal's a pretty cool place. I loved Vernal. If I could go back to Vernal, that's where I really would go back to. But so